Hey everybody, welcome back to So You Want to Live in Bahia. My name is Kitty. I'm a gringa living here in Salvador, Bahia, Brazil for more than 12 years, and I'm a real estate agent. So I had a conversation with a client the other day, and he was thinking about buying property out in one of these beach communities just outside the city. And I advised him against it, and I'd like to explain why that is. First off, let's talk about the good points. If you're out there in this rustic little beach community, it really does feel like you're living the life. It's very tropical and warm. You feel like you're living in nature. There's less pollution in general, which I really appreciate. There's less air pollution because there's not a lot of cars. Within these tiny roads in the communities, you don't have big trucks and buses and cars, not as many cars. And my favorite point is the lack of light pollution, because a lot of these communities don't allow you to build higher than 2 stories. And so you don't have big buildings with lots of lights, and at night, it's amazing. You can see all the stars you never thought you could see. It's the stars alone almost is worth it, almost. And it's great. When you first get there, it feels great. You love it. But there are a series of very important drawbacks that I want to bring your attention to. Oh, by the way, I do want to say also, it is cheaper living in these places for the most part. And that's also the big draw. There's a whole bunch of other things that come with that. In the village I lived in, which I don't really want to say it by name because I'm kind of talking some shit here and I don't really want to put the spotlight on this village, but there was no post office. And so anytime I had to order something or pick up something that was delivered to me, I had to drive 20 minutes to the nearest village and wait in line minimum 20 minutes just to get my package. I had one point waited just over 2 hours to get a package. There's no AC. You're waiting in line, and when you're lucky enough to get inside of the tiny post office, there's only small fans for the people who work there. It's just hot, it's horrible, and it's such a waste of time. I was ordering more things because you have less options of things in the town. I mean, it's nice, there's not like a lot of clothing stores. You're not gonna be wasting your money on all these pretty shiny objects because they don't exist. Another drawback is that the supermarkets are just so-so. You're gonna be missing out on a lot of good stuff because they don't have everything. Like if you want organic produce, good luck. Another thing is Uber. Now, the village I lived in had no street names. And so if there's no street names, Uber can't come. And so you have a harder time moving around. There is moto taxis that you can take, but I think around 7 or 8 o'clock at night, they don't work anymore. They stopped working. Like, knock on wood, I never got into an accident because they drive very crazy. Because what happens is when you're in these little villages that have like brick roads, cobblestone streets, the cobblestone gets really worn out in the middle. And so it's flatter on the very sides of the road close to the sidewalk to ride your motorcycle. And these guys are getting close to almost hitting the sidewalk. It's scary. I'm surprised you don't see more accidents with them. I guess they know what they're doing, but it's kind of scary. Another thing, no movie theaters. There's no movie theaters. There's no big shopping centers. And so of course that doesn't really combinar with the whole aesthetic of living in the middle of nature and then having all these amenities. But these amenities are great and you don't realize how much you like them until they're not around. Especially like that post office thing is kind of a big bummer, and you do end up wasting a lot of time there if you live there and you're ordering stuff. And that's inevitable that you'll be ordering stuff, like I said before, because if you live there, there's no stores. That's how you get your stuff. The community I lived in also didn't have any good schools for kids. And so a lot of people would drive to Laura de Freitas every day. And then because it's like an hour drive or so, more or less an hour, they would stay there all day long and then they would drive back. And you're paying road toll both directions. And people were doing this just so their kids can have an education because the schools there are so bad. And so what I loved about this community is that raising my daughter there was amazing at the time. She was climbing trees like a pro. She could look at a tree and know, oh, that's a mango tree, that's a banana tree. She knew this just by looking at the leaves of the trees, and I was really impressed as a city girl that she was just adapting so well. But there's so many drawbacks. And to be honest, as great as it was for her to be raised there, she to this day hates where we used to live and refuses to go back. So for us, at least, our experience, it was not as good as I thought it would be and I hoped it would be. And now you're probably saying to yourself, but Kitty, I would buy that for income as an investment. If you are willing to buy some property there and then rent it long term, then that could be a viable option for you. People don't usually pay as much in rent there. So because people who live out in the sticks don't make that much money. So they're not usually paying high rent. As far as vacation rentals go, you don't make as much money because there's not as much demand. When people want to go there, they want to go New Year's Eve, Carnival, because people like to leave the city for Carnival, and São João, because people also like to leave the city for São João. And then any long weekend also is good. Other than that, and sometimes on a regular weekend, maybe you'll get some people from Salvador wanting to come. But at the end of the day, this is a small percentage of days per year that there's a demand for renting. And another thing is, unfortunately, the infrastructure here is just lacking. During these high points of the year, when we would have more people coming to the city, like Carnival, São João, New Year's Eve, we would often have electrical outages, and also we'd run out of water. Now, the condo I lived in had a well, which is not ideal. That water's a little bit dirty, but at least you have water. But the house I lived in after that, there was no well, and so when you have no water, you just don't have any water, and it's really not ideal. I do not miss not when having the water run out, which would happen there, and you have to just collect every little drop of water and reuse it because you don't know. You know that it's Carnival, you know the water's gonna run out, and you hope that you have conserved enough water that it doesn't happen this year. So anyways, that is my black pill on buying a house in one of these beach communities. I think if you really have your heart set on it, I think that a bigger beach community would probably be better, because if you have a post office nearby, and just you have to talk to your agent. I just don't really know how well things are renting, and I think that's a big part of it, because you don't want to have any apartment you buy or house you buy, you don't want it to go unrented for a couple of months, because problems could happen. You want people in there using the place, turning electricity on, using all the appliances, because if that doesn't happen, the house just ends up sort of rotting and things go bad quickly, and that you don't want that, not from your investment. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful for you. If you liked it, please subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Beijos!